Ladies and gentlemen, Studio Yonkers, New York's own DJ Lenny. This is Making Your Bones, the story of hustle, respect, and how they became a boss. A podcast by ZazRadio.com. Episode 7. Everyone has a story. What is yours? If you're interested, guy or gal, and like to share your product business story to the world, send us an email, zazradio@gmail.com. We'll review it, get back to you, and maybe you too will be interviewed by yours truly and get blasted out to hundreds of thousands of potential customers, followers in the very near future. Hello, United States of America, the entire world, rock and roll, and the music community. Let me introduce you to a very dear friend of mine, a music legend, one of the founding members of the rock and roll and Hall of Fame group, AEROSMITH. He's the one actually who designed the AEROSMITH logo. And so much more you'll find out very shortly. Make some noise for Ray Tabano is in the house. Hey, what's up, everyone? To Ray Tabano.
I wish I knew how to make my like little things go up on my screen, like like little bubbles and stuff, but I don't know how to do that. I'm not that great with the computer.
Say hello to everybody, Ray.
Right, guys. Good to see you all out there. Lenny, you're the best, man. Lenny works very hard for the rock and roll community. Every time there's something going on in town, he's got his DJ thing set up there, and he's over there volunteering his time and doing stuff for everybody, man. Playing good music. Every time I turn around, I bump into him. Like I said, what are you following me? What's the story with you, man?
Hey, listen, you know what? It's all about friends supporting friends. And we go back to 2018. You supported me at my ZazRadio.com launch party when the mayor, City Yonkers Mayor Mike Spano, I was blessed for him to give us a day, October 12th, 2018, Zaz Radio Day. So everything that you do, especially for the vets, I try to support. And we'll talk about that very shortly. But Ray, let's talk about it. How did this happen for you? Did you grow up in a musical family? Mom, dad, siblings? How old were you when you started playing the harmonica or the guitar? Let's get into it.
That was actually, there was a lot of music in my mother's family. My mother played the mandolin. One of my uncles was in the Air Force band for like 30 years. He was a trumpet player. I got a couple of nieces that play, but my mother was into music. My father was a singer. Didn't know him that well. Back in the day, we called it a broken family. It wasn't dysfunctional. We hadn't got to that part yet. But I really didn't know my dad that well. But a couple of times when I was younger, Steven Tyler and myself went down to where he was working in the bar and got up on stage and played. And I think I was like 14. What it was for me is, and I just came back from Liverpool. I was just spent a week in Liverpool at the International Beatle Festival. I actually got to play in the Cavern Club, the Cavern Pub. I was also in the Beatles Story Museum, and I played at Strawberry Fields with a couple of fellows I know from Toronto and a couple of guys from Liverpool. But back in the day when we were like 13, 14 years old, and the Beatles came out, that's what kind of like did it for me. And then the Stones, forget about it. When I saw them, that was the end. I said, I got to play. I got to learn how to play a little better. At that time, I was the drummer, and Steven played the guitar. We were like 13 or 14 years old. And what happened was when Steven was about 15, his dad, Victor Tallarico, who was the music director at Cardinal Spellman High School for decades, they had a place up in Sunapee, New Hampshire, and Steven decided that Victor decided he wanted Steven to start playing in the band with him. So he sent him to this place in Mount Vernon called Westchester Workshop Drums Unlimited, and Steven started to learn how to play the drums. So now I'm playing the drums. We can't have two drummers, and so I had to learn how to play the guitar, and that's how the whole thing happened like that. And at first I played the bass guitar for a few years, for about 4 years. Then I picked up the guitar again and started playing, 6-string guitar, second guitar. And then after the whole AEROSMITH thing and blah, 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 I moved back to Yonkers again. We'll get into that. I picked up the bass again for about 10 years. And then about 9 years ago, I decided I wanted to start playing the 6-string again. And so now I'm playing regular guitar now.
So Steven Tyler was a drummer at first. And then how did he go to shift from drummer to lead man?
Okay, so I'm going to show you a picture right now.
Love it.
See this picture here? This is a picture of the band before AEROSMITH.
Wow.
Okay, this band was called William Proud, and Steven Tyler was the drummer in that band.
Wow. Love
This
it.
guy on this guy over here, Dwight, was the lead guitar player, and Don Solomon played the piano, and he had the bass box like the guy from the Ray from the Doors.
Mm.
So he played bass and piano, and Twitty and I both played guitar. So we were playing out at some club out in Long Island. And Steven said, I'm fed up with being behind the scene. He goes, I want to be on the front of the stage, because everybody used to give him a hard time. You look like Mick Jagger with your lips, and he told Don, he said, listen, Don, I don't want to play the drums anymore. We got to get a drummer. I want to be in the front, because in a couple of bands, way back when, Steven was a front man in the Strangers and blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
And then he went back to playing the drums again, and Don said, no, we can't do that because we'll have to pay another guy. And Steven goes, I don't care. I don't want to play the drums anymore. And Don goes, well, I'm not doing it. And then and we were on Long Island at the time. And Steven says, well, I don't care. I'm leaving then. So I had put together a leather shop up in Boston. I decided I was moving to Boston. And then I said, Steven, you know what? You told me about this guy, Joe Perry, you met up in New Hampshire. Because Steven, as a father, had a place in New Hampshire. They had a place called Trow Rico. They rented cabins for the winter. And Joe Perry's father also had a little summer place up there. And he had seen Joe play in one of these places called the Barn, which they ripped down, by the way, last year. They tore it down, which is horrible. And I said to Steven, I said, you're always talking about this guy, Joe Perry. Why don't you go get Joe and meet me in Boston, and we'll start the band there.
Meet you in Boston.
Meet me in Boston. And Steven hitchhiked that night from Long Island to New Hampshire. Okay, he called me.
Those were the days you're able to do it.
This is I'm talking about 1969.
I was about to say 1970. Wow.
And he said, "Okay, I'm here." I said, "Okay, listen, I'll be up in Boston in September." Blah 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 blah. And then what happened was I came in August rather. I came up there in August, in July. Got it set up. He came down in August.
Wow.
And with Joe and what do you call? He wanted to be a 3-piece band with him and Tom, because he had a band up there called the Jam Band with him and David Scott, with Tom Hamilton and David Scott. But David Scott's parents said, "You ain't going anywhere." Tom was something else. So Joe said to Steve, well, if Ray's coming from New York, I'm bringing Tom from New Hampshire.
Mm.
So the 4 of us met in Boston, and Steven was playing the drums while we were looking for somebody.
Well, let me ask something. Why Boston? New York had a thriving music scene.
I'll tell you why. Because what happened was I was living in Stockbridge for a while. My first wife and I, before we were married, her father had a art warehouse in the summertime in Lenox, Mass. Okay. So we went up there one time and we liked it. I met him one time up there. And then we went to see this movie with Arlo Guthrie called Alice's Restaurant. And when we saw the movie, I said, "Hey, isn't that Stockbridge town right next to where your father works?" She goes, "Yeah." I said, "Let's move up there."
Wow.
Just like that.
Just like that.
So we moved into this. It was a summer camp that was closed for the winter. We moved in there, I think, in October.
So how old are you? How old are you right now?
22.
So you're able to do it.
Yeah. We just left.
Let's just do it.
And I was making leather goods at the time.
Okay.
My wife and I were making, and we were selling them to a guy in White Plains, but he wanted too much money. He wanted like a 50%. I said, Lorraine, listen to this. Lorraine. I said, Susan, listen to this. Why don't we just move up to Boston? I said, I met some people up there a long time ago. I had been up there, and I said, well, get a shop up there. And her father gave us a couple of $1,000. I went up to Boston. We found a shop on Newbury Street, and we decided to move up there. This way we wouldn't have to pay somebody your commission. We'll just open a store ourselves. And,
wow.
So I said, Steven, I'm opening this place. I'll come up. We'll do everything up there. He goes, it's perfect, because Joe's from New Hampshire. Joe's is in Hopkinton, actually, where they have the Boston Marathon. He lives there. Tom's in New Hampshire. We'll all come down and we'll do it there. So we all got together. Joe's mother was a phys ed teacher, in the school system in Massachusetts. Mary, God rest her loving soul, what a nice lady she was. And she knew somebody at Boston University, and she the guy gave us a room down in the basement to rehearse. He said, and he goes, but what you got to do, you got to do a gig. You got to play for the students one time. That's why our original picture, and I'm going to show that to you.
Awesome.
The original picture of the band is in the what do you call it? Hold on. It's
So you met Stephen in Yonkers?
Yeah, well, I met Stephen in Yonkers when I was like 13 years old.
At what, Roosevelt High School?
No, we were in Walt Whitman at the time. Walt Whitman Junior High School. What happened?
Oh, wow.
They had moved up from the Bronx.
Okay.
Okay, and I lived in the Bronx. It was an okay neighborhood, but it was all concrete. There's some trees. But it was all concrete. And tight houses and stuff like that. Apartment buildings. So when I got up to Yonkers, and we lived, Mountaindale Road, right by the Grassy Spring Reservoir.
Mountaindale, yeah.
This is before they built the Grassy Spring Parkway.
Wow.
This is in 1962. I think they built the Grassy Spring Parkway in '66. Well, it was all woods. There was the Spring Road was a 1.5 lane road from Tuckahoe Road to the golf course.
Oh, wow.
And that's where it stopped.
1 lane.
It was 1.5 lanes. It was 1.5 lanes. So I was walking down Mountaindale. I got to the lake. I said, wow, this is like really cool. And I'm feeling like, woodsy. But I couldn't see the lake. So I climb up a tree. And I'm looking at the lake. And all of a sudden I hear, hey, you. And I look down. There's this set of lips down the bottom over there. I said, what? He goes, that's my tree. I said, that's your tree? Well, that's how I first met him.
And that's how it started.
And then about 2 weeks later, I was walking around the neighborhood, exploring the place. And he was out on a lawn with some kid that had a cast on his arm. And he was egging the kid on, go start trouble with this guy, me.
Mm.
So I was, this tough kid from the Bronx, and blah, blah, blah. So as I walk over onto the lawn, the guy steps out of the door, the homeowner, he goes, hey, kick that kid's ass. That's what he told me. So I threw him around a little bit on the lawn.
Oh, wow.
And that's how we met.
Wow.
We became friends after that. Yeah, we had a common interest, man. The music is what brought us together.
But you know what? It just goes to show what I always say. You never know who you're going to meet and how that person or persons can change your life forever.
Yeah, we also
nice to everybody, even though in this case you weren't so nice, but but that's the way it was.
It's the way
Back in the day, you had a fight, and then the next day, guess what? You're friends.
You're friends. Well, also because we had a common interest, with the outdoors, because we hung around on the lake together, and we used to fish and trap and swim in the lake down there, and the whole bit, and that was it.
So where in the Bronx were you originally from? Country club?
I lived over by, first we lived on 1309 Commonwealth Avenue, which is by St. Lawrence. It's about maybe a half a mile, 3/4 mile from Parkchester.
Oh, Parkchester, okay.
Stephen was originally from Riverdale.
Oh, he's from Riverdale, okay.
And then I moved to Fish Avenue in the Bronx, which is by Gun Hill and Eastchester, which is where Freedom Land was.
Oh, wow.
It's now Co-op City.
Oh, yeah.
That's where Freedom Land was. And then we moved
Joe and Joe's. Where was Joe and Joe's?
Yeah, and then my mother remarried when I was like 12 years old, and we moved up to Yonkers.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how it happened.
Gracious living, right?
Stephen lived right around the block. I lived on Mountaindale. He lived on Pembroke, right around the block from each other.
Oh, we lived in Pembroke? Right on Pembroke?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's right around the corner.
Right around the corner.
And those days was all woods, huh?
It was all woods.
Wow.
Then they built the Grassy Spring Park. When they first built the parkway, though, the Grassy Spring, it only went from Tuckahoe Road to Jackson Avenue.
Yeah.
Fort Hill Road. And then it stopped. And then about a few years later, they went from there up to 287.
We used to sleigh ride right in Dunwoody.
Well, we used to sleigh ride at what do you call it?
Dunwoody Golf Course.
Grassy Spring Golf Course.
Yeah, we used to, and you know what it was? The train tracks. We used to stop by the spring and fill up the jugs of water. We used to drink from it. The spring, it was delicious back then.
we used to go on the third hole in the spring. There's a big steep thing down to the lake, and we used to sleigh ride over there.
Yeah, we used to sleigh ride at Murder Hill. It was called.
Yeah,
because it was just steep right down, and you would go over the train tracks. That's how far. It was such a big steep hill. Oh my God!
Dunwoody?
Dunwoody, yeah.
Woody, I played Dunwoody. Yeah.
Oh man,
Anyway, so that's how that whole thing happened. That's how the friendship started. And then then again, like Stephen's father was a classical trained musician and a music teacher. So the band that he was in, okay, were a little more sophisticated players than the band that I was in.
Okay.
They were more like a Beatle band, and we were like a Rolling Stone band. We couldn't play as well, but we looked a lot cooler, and we had a lot more prettier girls hanging out with us than they had with them.
There it is. That's it. That speaks volumes right there.
So as far as I was concerned,
Yeah.
we had made it.
That's the way it happens.
But what happened was that as we grew older and we went from junior high school to high school, and then we're getting ready to graduate high school and move on. A lot of the parents of the kids that were in the bands with us said things like, you're not going to be a musician. You're going to school. You're going to get a job, okay, and you're going to get an education. So the 20 guys became 15 guys, became 10 guys, became 4 guys.
Wow.
You see? And that's how it wound up. Oh, boy, here's a picture of the original lineup with AEROSMITH.
Now that's where? That's on the Roosevelt.
No, that's at BU College.
Oh, that's in Boston College?
Yeah, see now Joey Kramer over here, okay?
Yes.
What happened with him was that he was a drummer in a band. We used to rehearse at Henry Schneiderman's house when it was the Dantes, myself and Ricky Holtzman and Henry and this guy Phil Novak. And we would rehearse at the house. And when we were done, Henry's little brother Barry had a band called the King Bees, and Joey Kramer was in that band.
Oh wow!
And that's how I met him. He's a little younger than me, and that's how I met him. And then I was in my shop one day after we moved up to Boston, and we were rehearsing with me and Stephen and Joe and Tom. Joey Kramer came walking into my store. I said, I know you. I said, didn't you play drums in that band with Henry's younger brother? He goes, yeah. I said, what are you doing up here? He said, well, I'm going to Berkeley. I'm going to Berkeley School of Music. And I heard that that you were starting a band here in Boston. I said, and he goes, can you get me an audition? I said, sure, no problem, man. We're gonna be rehearsing tomorrow night, blah blah blah, so and so. So show up. So the next night he showed up at BU, and since we had nobody else,
that was it.
He got the job.
That's the way it works out.
That's the way it works out.
Timing is everything.
Yeah, you've got to be in the right place at the right time.
It's unbelievable. It really, truly is. It's all about timing in life.
No.
It really is. And it's
that's how the band started. That's how it started. And then what happened was, a few years later, we were working stuff out, and we playing gigs here and there, starving to death, not making any money. And I wasn't into it as much as Joe and Tom and Joe and Steve were, man. Joe and Steve were like, that's what they wanted to do. Me, I had my leather shop. I had a little shit on the side I was doing. I got a shop. I was riding around with some guys with the bikes, hanging out, playing here and there, and then some friends of mine, they said, listen, we're going to move up to Maine. We're going to we're going to go up there and we're going to bring you start a farm. I said, that sounds like fun. So I kind of like, Steve and Joe said, listen, we found this other guy that we really like and blah, 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 blah. We want him to be in the band and this, that, and the other thing. And I said, fine, no problem. I got no problem with that.
So let me ask you something. So, all right, so your guys are recycled, basically. You have all these guys in different bands, right? So now you put together the band. You're in Boston. You're doing shows. How do you go from that name, William Proud, to?
Well, we went when we got up to Boston. It wasn't William Proud.
What was it?
It was we didn't have a name yet, and
and
Joey Kramer came up with the name.
And how'd they come up with it?
He said that he was scribbling names on books and stuff, and that was one of the names he came up with. We had nothing else, so we took that.
And you're the marketing guy, which I'm always intrigued by. You know what I say about marketing. If it's not in front of you, how do you know about it? So we make sure we put everything right in front of you. And with you, it seems like everything you do also You put it right, but we're talking an iconic logo, Raymond.
What happened was this: is when I
An
left the band.
iconic logo.
What happened was I left, and I went up to Maine. I started a little band up there, a Plan B band.
Okay.
And I was up there like and the winters up there were brutal. I mean, I lived on top of this hill. We bought a farm, a 37-acre farm. It was
Wow.
12 acres of field and 25 acres of woods in the mountains.
Wow.
And the way we got to our house was
You weren't kidding. You're an outdoorsy person.
I'm saying we drove up the hill, and halfway up
From
the hill.
Yonkers to Maine?
Yeah, no, from Boston to Maine, from Boston to Maine. And what happened was is that the road stopped halfway up from where we lived at this chicken farm. And so we had snowmobiles. So we would drive our car to this guy's farm, jump in the snowmobiles, and go up to the house. So the first winter, it was fun. The second winter wasn't so much fun because it got old. I mean, it was just like, 6 feet of snow for like 7 months, 5 months or whatever it was.
Wow.
And Stephen called me a couple of times, and he goes, "Ray, you got to come back. I can't, I can't stand these guys. You got to, and you're my only friend, and blah blah blah." So I went back to work for the band. My first job with AEROSMITH was I hung out with them. They paid me to hang out with them. So I was traveling around with them, and then a couple of guys that were roadies were saying, "Hey man, he don't do nothing. You got to give him. You got to do something." I said, "Okay." So I started driving the truck with them, and hanging out backstage and doing stuff. And then one day we were doing a show in the Westwood Speedway.
How do you remember?
I was a big guy into comic books. I like comic books. And when I saw that logo that they had with the flying a-hole, I said, "What the fuck is that?" I said, let's do something nice. So I hired an artist because I can't draw, but I can think. Yeah. And I told her, I said, "This is what I want you to do. I want you to use the Harley type of wings. I want you to do a circle with like a semicircle. I want the A inside. I want a triangle. I want it attached in 3 spots." And she came up with the logo, and I brought it to a place, and I had 100 T-shirts made. I still have one. They were red with the black logo with the yellow thing in it.
Now these are the ones that you sold on Porn Stars?
This is no, I didn't sell one of those. No, that one I didn't sell. No,
okay.
No. The one I sold on Porn Stars was a one of a kind shirt that the printer gave to me that the band didn't like, but they signed it anyway. But anyway, so what happened was I had the shirts at this Westwood place, and I sold them out immediately. Okay, so when the band went on stage, there was like 100 guys and girls wearing the T-shirts.
Wow.
And the band goes, "Wow, that's really cool." I said, "What do you think, guys?" And they said, "We like it."
So you worked with this graphic artist at the time. Now, do you remember her? Did you give her props? Or
Well, no, I just paid her to do it. It was my idea. She just drew it for me. She just drew it for me. I paid her to draw it, but she didn't come up with it. It was my idea.
Yeah, it was your idea. You knew exactly what you wanted.
Then I went to a place and had it, and so then we started making a little money, and we still didn't have our facility, our studio yet. So I flew down to New York, and I talked to the management into giving me $40,000. This is back in 1973, 74.
I was 1 year old.
They gave me $40,000, and I found a warehouse, a 5,000 square foot warehouse, and I hired everybody. I designed the studio, and we built the place so a semi could back into it and drop the cab off, and we could close the door, keep our gear in. We had a studio. We had the window and the thing and the stage. We had everything, and we started making money.
Wow.
And then what happened was when they were ready to do the Draw the Line album, I started a fan club, a little mailing thing, and we would get people to sign up here and there. So I flew down to New York and talked to the people at CBS Columbia, and I said, "I want to put an insert, a flyer in the album." I said, "I'll get it for you, what they call camera ready." Mm-hmm. So all they had to do was shoot it and print it. And what it was join the AEROSMITH fan club, which we called Aero Knows at the time.
Wow.
I was Aero, and if you wanted to know something, you asked me because Aero knows. Yeah. Okay, and I put the flyer in the album cover. First one ever, the first band ever to do that in the world.
Wow.
And in a month, I got 60,000 people to join the fan club.
Wow.
We went from 0 to 60,000 in 30 days. So now I got a mail order business happening. I had to hire two people, one to work the office and one to do the actual fulfillment, stuff like that.
Where's this? Where's this?
This is in Waltham, Massachusetts.
In Massachusetts. Wow.
Waltham, Mass. Yeah. As a matter of fact, somebody called me up about 6 months ago that they bought the place and they turned, it was a studio and they're using it and they wanted me to come up there and do something with them. I said, let me know when. Fly me up there, put me up, and I'll come up and I'll do whatever you want. And so I'm still waiting for them to get back to me.
Isn't that amazing when you think about it, when you look back? And this is the creative side, because there wasn't any bands doing that.
No, we had we were on the ball. Listen, the only competition we had with two guys. One of them was Gene Simmons, who was a freaking genius when it comes to this stuff.
Brilliant. Yep.
And let me tell you something. His background and my motivation are the same. Marvel comic books.
Wow.
The comic. Look at Chess. They're comic book characters.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say.
They made themselves into comic book characters. But he's so much more than that. He's so smart when it comes to that whole marketing. I think he holds 1,800 patents.
Wow.
On all the Kiss stuff, and I don't, and the other one was Bill Graham, out in the West Coast.
Okay.
Because he did all the the stuff for all the West Coast bands.
So let's go back to the logo. So you must have been into Harleys then back in the day, Harley Davidson.
That's where the wings came from.
So there you go. So essentially, that's where it came from.
That was the idea.
Wow. Very cool, man.
There's back in the 40s and 50s, a lot of people used wings in their logos. One of them was a gas company. It was what do you call it? The Amoco Gas, Flying A.
Oh, yes.
There was a lot of people that use wings in this stuff. If you go back and you look at it, a lot of people use wings in their logos. So Aero means flight, so AEROSMITH. You
want to laugh. When I was looking into the first logo for Zaz Radio, I hired a company, I think it was in Canada, actually. Surprising, off the internet, $500, whatever it is, give me a couple. And one of them, listen to this. I said, what's that? I said, the Z and the A. I said, the A looks very familiar. You know what they did? They took the Avengers logo.
Oh. Comic books.
And they put the A for Zaz, Z-A-Z-Z. I said, no. And I looked it up. I was like, these son of a guns. They try to get a... So sure enough, we changed it around.
No, you can't do that. Those guys they're all copywritten, signature written. We got all that stuff. I learned.
We're talking about, the A for AEROSMITH and then A for Zaz Radio. Who inspired you in your style?
Okay, so it's mostly, mostly the Beatles and the Stones.
Yeah.
But then again, like Clapton too, Jeff Beck, who I actually met Jeff Beck backstage. One time I sat next to him.
Wow.
I had a little conversation with him, which is one of the highlights of my life, and Hendrix, I knew
Hendrix was in there.
We were like 14 years old or 15 years old. Mm-hmm. Jimi Hendrix was playing at the Westchester County Center in White Plains.
Jimi Hendrix?
So we took the bus from Yonkers up to there. There was me and Steven and a couple of girls from high school. I think it was Debbie and Dia. And we took the bus up. I had my American flag shirt on. My hair was down on my waist. And we watched Hendrix play, man, with the 3 marshals high and 3 across. It was like amazing.
I used to take the bus from Palmer Road. Mm-hmm. I used to walk from Lockwood to Palmer Road, and we used to go to Mad Platters. Remember the record store? Mad Platters, next to the library?
Yep.
And then all the way up in the 4 corners on the right-hand side. What is that place on the left hand? It was actually made the right, and it was the left-hand side. I think I met MOD there. I think Billy Milano back in the day.
So meanwhile, to talk about Hendrix, I was at Woodstock.
Wow.
And I was there when Hendrix played the national anthem.
Oh.
It was amazing.
Describe that moment. Describe it.
It was like we had been up for a couple of days, drinking and partying and this, that, and the other. And I was like crawling back to my tent. And all of a sudden I heard, wow, 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 wow. We just sat there and listened to the whole thing. It was like just amazing.
And
Yeah,
those, let me ask you, those,
we went up there on Thursday, and we stayed there till the following Tuesday.
Mhm.
We had I went up there on Thursday on my chopper. No, in my car. I had a Peugeot. I drove up in my Peugeot on Thursday. We set up a tent, and my girlfriend and Stephen was there, and my brother was there. God rest his soul, he's not with us anymore. And then I drove back to Yonkers in my car and picked up my chopper and brought my motorcycle, back up there. And we were camped out with the hog farm from California, for like the whole time we were there. And the first night we were there, listen to this. So we go over to get some food because they had everything. Everybody was like, soaking wet with nothing. These guys had a whole setup with a tent. So we're in there and we're having something to eat. So Stephen picks up a pot and a wooden spoon and starts going dum 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 dum. About 6 hours later, there was like 50 people beating on all the stuff still. Dum 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 dum. He started the whole thing.
So let me ask you about distortion, right?
Yeah.
So you're talking about 69, 70, right? Yeah. Now, did they come out with those pedals just yet?
Yeah, a little bit. There was a few effect pedals, the wah-wah pedal.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Wah, wah.
A few distortion pedals. I have one right here.
Yeah. Those are some cool pedals.
One of the original ones right here. This is a Univox microphaser.
Wow.
It's a pretty cool box, man. Has a little foot on it.
Yeah, you see that.
This is that's the sounds that some of the Beatles made, and Hendrix, when he had that revolving sound, that was for that MXR phase shifter, And
now, are we talking about Marshall amps, or we go back to Marshall amps, or prior to that?
Marshalls were back then, but I was using a Vox amp back then.
Vox, okay.
We also have, you can't see it, but up in that corner up there where it is a 69 what do you call Ampeg reverber rocket. It was used, the band that used to use that was the Ventures. When they made all those great, guitar songs, that was the amp they used.
So cool.
I had it rebuilt. It's a really nice little amp.
So you still have your guitars. I know you bring them out to your shows.
I got a ton of guitars. I got that guitar there. I got that guitar there.
Love it.
Bass guitar over here, and then you'll see behind the AEROSMITH thing is a stack of guitars.
Wow.
Then up on the ceiling over there. See up there?
Yeah. Oh,
it's another stack of guitars.
Look at that.
I got lots of guitars.
A lot of goodies. A lot of goodies and treats.
Guitars I got.
What?
We do that British Invasion show.
Yeah, love it.
In the British Invasion show, what we do is when we play the Beatles, I use the Rickenbacker. When I play the Stones, I have a special guitar I made. It looks like Brian Jones's, teardrop guitar, but it's actually a Stratocaster. I use that. Then I have an SG I use for the when we do the Who, and then I have this one over here, that Epiphone 335 model. That's the one that we use when we do like Herman's Hermits, or we do the Moody Blues, or we do the Zombies, the Animals. They all use that guitar.
Wow.
And then I got my Les Paul. When we do it at the end of the show, we do the Aerosmith stuff.
Les Paul, baby. Now you go back to Les Paul was probably one of the first guitars, right?
Yeah.
And what year is that?
He started like in the 50s.
The 50s.
He started in the 50s. But so I got all the guitars for all the songs that the match bands, and then we have all the wardrobe to match what they were wearing at the time.
I was just about to say that.
You know what we do? We also run all the videos. So every time we play a song by a band, we run the video of that band behind us, because what happened was we can download everything from YouTube, from the BBC back in the 60s. So when we're playing all the Stones stuff, we have videos of the Stones playing the same song.
Yes.
So it's kind of authentic.
So give me
that's what's going on, Lenny boy.
An aha moment when you really felt you made it. This aha moment for you.
I tell you something. I We were in the apartment at 1325 Commonwealth Avenue where Stephen lived with Joe. Joe, Stephen, and Tom lived in the same apartment. I lived in a separate apartment. Joey Kramer had his own apartment. I went there one afternoon, and Joe goes, "You got to check this riff out." And he started laying into Same Old Song and Dance. When I heard that song, I said to myself, I said, you know what? This guy actually could do something. You know what I'm saying? I had an aha moment right there with him. I said, this guy could actually do something.
That's great.
And I was there when Stephen was writing Dream On, and a bunch of Uncle Salty and a bunch of other songs. When Tom first came up with the riff, for Sweet Emotion, because Joe invented that little airbag that he had with a wah. He came up with that whole idea,
Wow.
But when he played that song that time, I said, that was for me. I said, this guy could actually make it. They were pretty good, but the thing was, I didn't have the same fire in me that they had.
Yeah.
Because I said, I had a business, I was making money, with the leather goods, I was making money doing other things. I would have my motorcycle and stuff like that, I had a lot of stuff going on, and I just wasn't, that dedicated to it enough. But when I came back, after I left and came back, came back into the marketing, then I really got into it with it, because that I had a feel for, that I didn't have to go up and perform. I could just think, hire people, and I had like artists working for me, and my friend Seth Goldman, may God rest his loving soul. And this is before computers. Okay, this is before computers, where everything was cut and paste. We would sit down and we would talk about what I wanted to do, and he would come back with it, and I would say, yeah, that's okay, but I want this, and I want that, I want the other thing, and move stuff around, and that's how we came up with all our artwork. As a matter of fact, I got to talk to Joe Perry, because I have all the original artwork from the 70s.
You do?
I have everything, because everything was in my name. I copyrighted everything and signature trademarked everything in my name, all the logos and stuff.
Was it easy back then to do that?
Well, you just, you got to call up and write stuff in, and, work with the Library of Congress,
Okay.
and all this stuff, and hire the lawyers to do it, all this stuff. But I have everything.
That's awesome.
So I have a lot of stuff, And when I went to Liverpool, last month, and I saw with the Beatles and the Heritage Foundation, Yoko Ono, Pete Best, Paul McCartney, the stuff that they had put together, I immediately called Joe and said, Joe, you got to do this. You guys are the biggest band that ever came out of America. You sold more records than everybody in America, every other band. And that is the Eagles and Santana, and all the West Coast bands.
It's crazy when you think about it, right?
Listen, Bon Jovi, the Kiss, you sold more records than everybody.
Then Kiss?
They sold 150 million albums to RAYOSMITH.
Wow. 150 million albums.
Okay. So,
and how many you associated with? How many you?
And just the way I was on a couple of them, a couple of the first ones. But the point is that their brand is as big as the Red Sox in Boston. I said, why isn't there a museum?
Please don't even mention that, please.
So I know that, but why isn't that?
Yankees, baby, Yankees.
Why isn't there a Why isn't there a place in Boston like they have in Liverpool? And they just don't want to do it for some reason. Wow. I had a guy ready to finance it and everything, and they just don't want to do it for some reason. I don't know why, but it's beyond me. But that's what's going on.
A fan moment you'll never forget.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. All right, listen, Lenny, I love you, man.
A fan moment you'll never forget. Tell me.
What's that? A sad moment?
A fan
moment. Okay.
I'm always positive, brother.
A fan moment. Let me think about it. A fan moment.
I'll go through these fast because I know you.
We were doing a show in Atlanta, and Elvis Costello opened up for us.
Wow.
We were doing a show in Atlanta, and all of a sudden, this girl jumps up on the barrier in front of us and just whips it open, man. I'm going, oh my God, what is that? And then later on, somehow she wound up in the dressing room.
Somehow.
Somehow she wound up in the dressing room.
All right, first time hearing your song on the radio. Where were you?
Oh man, I can't. Where was I, man? I don't even remember. You know, when it was what happened when there was a problem. You know, it was in BC. It was on BCN. It was on BCN up in Boston.
Okay.
When Aerosmith first broke out over there. And to tell you the truth, what happened was is that before the band started recording for Columbia, I had left.
Yeah.
I had left. You know, and
Okay.
you know, I mean, I'm on some of the tape recordings that we did, and some of the reel to reel stuff that we did. You know. But I never sat down in the studio with them and did anything. So I wasn't around. I mean, I remember when I came back to Boston and I started hearing the stuff on the radio and it kind of like flipped me out. But even today, I'm still like, I was watching something yesterday and all of a sudden I heard Walk This Way in the background.
Wow.
A commercial on television. So I'm still like kind of, you know, awed by how far they've gone. Because I remember when we were playing up in New Hampshire or in Vermont, and we would be getting paid like $125, and there were 6 of us because there was the 5 guys in the band and Mark Lehman who had the van, you know, the truck, you know. And after we paid for gas, you know, and ate something, you know, we'd all wind up with like about $5 each, you know. And then I come back and I'm working with the band, and there's like, you know. At first, there was only a few guys on the crew, but by the time, you know, the thing got really big, we had like, you know, a tractor trailer, 2 tractor trailers, 3 buses, you know, there was like 20 guys on the crew. You know, we were probably, you know, using, you know, 20 rolls of tape a night, you know, taping all, you know, it was just like,
Yeah.
you know, I was selling, you know, 1,000 dozen T-shirts on the weekend.
Wow.
It was like nuts.
How much were the T-shirts back then?
I mean, I was paying like $1.25 selling them for $5, and they were American made.
Woo, baby. If you
Now
didn't
you
choose
buy, now you buy a T-shirt is $40.
wow.
You know, because a lot of guys back then were, you know, buying shirts from Pakistan and India because they were a lot cheaper. But we
course.
everything was American made. Everything
Yeah,
we
baby. American made, right here.
everything American
Yeah.
made. Everything. Everything.
American made.
Everything was printed in the USA. All the
Yeah.
shirts were made in the USA. All the hats were made in the USA. Even the little plastic stuff that we did with the little wings.
If you didn't choose this for yourself, what would have you done? I mean, you know, you love food.
Mom, I have a what do you call? I have a culinary degree.
Yeah. Oh, you do?
From the French Culinary Institute in classical French cuisine.
Wow.
I'm French trained.
And your food is insane.
But
I've been to parties at your house. Let's not forget.
my favorite thing in the world to do is to go food shopping.
Really? I can't stand it.
I love food shopping. Like ladies like to go, you know, shoe shopping.
Yeah.
And clothes, I like to go to the, you know, to the markets.
I like to eat it.
Well,
I like to eat it.
We
have Uncle Giuseppe's up here.
I cook every now. You know what? I tell you something. I like that guy with the mustache.
Yeah.
What's his name? That does Uncle Giuseppe's with you know on News 12.
Yeah.
I like him. He's good. You know, I did 21 episodes for News 12 cooking.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I did 21 with Mary Calvey. I did 21 episodes.
Oh, awesome! Shout out to Mary Calvey. She was the best.
Yeah, I did a lot of stuff in News 12.
And the family.
And,
Wow.
as a matter of fact, I want a little. I just got off the phone with Dave Wolf the other day, and they're going to promote our show again for my boys over here for the DAV.
Yeah, we want to talk about that. Definitely.
I got the vest in the background over there. I'm an honorary member of the Disabled American Veterans, Chapter 23.
You do so much.
I'm
You
gonna
really do. Let's talk about it.
I'm going to be with them on Saturday. We're gonna go over the whole thing on next Saturday for the upcoming show.
Awesome.
I've been recruiting people from all over musicians from all over Westchester. I went up to Pete's Saloon. We love Anthony. Anthony's the greatest guy around that runs Pete's Saloon. You know, anytime you get a chance to go up there and support him, get the hell up there. He has all the local bands up there all the time. I'm going to go see my buddy.
New York, right? Elmsford, New York.
I'm going to go see my buddy Shredder this weekend with and Sue from Sue and the Fun Ghouls. They're playing this weekend. And I've been recruiting guys from all over Westchester County. We're going to have what I call the Third Step Westchester All-Star Band on Sunday afternoon, November 9th at 1 o'clock. We'll be there from 1 to 2 doing our set. Then we're going to do a little fundraising. And then about 2:30, 2:45, we got Pat Perone doing his Elvis show.
Great job.
He's unbelievable. Pat is great. He does a great thing.
You and Napoli do a great job.
News 12 should be covering that. We're going to do something in front of the of Pete's Saloon on Wednesday, which is I think the 5th of November. Let me check to make sure. Wednesday.
Send me the flyers so I can promote them for you.
Definitely will. The 5th of November. Let me see. Make sure I got it. Yeah, it's Wednesday, the 5th of November. We'll be in front of Pete's Saloon at 11 o'clock in the morning, and we're going to be singing and playing and to promote the show. And News 12 is going to come and they're going to cover it for us, they said. And if they don't, we'll just film it ourselves and edit it and send it over there. So they're going to pump us up a little bit with that. And then, like I said, we're going to hope to have a good show and raise some more money for these guys.
How long have you been working with them?
This is our 7th year.
I love it.
Lucky 7. We got Lucky 7 coming up, and
Lucky 7 for us, Zaz Radio.
You go.
2018.
So we're going to pump that up a little bit and get people to come to the show and make some money, and we'll take it from there. That's
good stuff. I mean, listen, my grandfather, decorated World War II veteran, decorated soldier. He passed in '90. My father just passed in March, and he was a Vietnam vet. He's buried in Tennessee in the military grave, and the
well, and it was funny because when I met with the vets last year, and we were getting ready to do the thing, a couple of the guys were telling me about the sad state of affairs in New York, how they were, removing the vets from the hospital, from the hotels, and they were, putting in, illegal immigrants, throwing the vets out.
We won't even get into that.
And I got really upset about that.
Yeah.
So I kind of like redoubled the efforts, to raise money for them. We did pretty good last year. I want to do better this year.
You're always doing something, Ray. God bless you and Elaine, your beautiful wife. You really are a godsend, man. And, this is all God's work. We've been doing this.
I guess that's why he kept me alive.
Hey, listen, you know what? You're still young, brother. You're still young.
I know
we all go through stuff, that.
I know a lot of guys that aren't around anymore, man. I'm blessed. I got to tell you.
You're still young, but you know what? It's all about food too.
Yeah.
You cook your own food. You pick your own food. You serve your own food. Listen, again, I know how delicious it is because
you got to keep yourself healthy because nobody's going to do it for you.
You know what I mean? That's really what it boils down to.
Okay. What else you got for me?
So musically, what are you up to?
Okay, what am I up to? I'm still working with the Third Step. I tell you something. I've been leaning more into this Beatles thing. I was talking with Anthony again from Pete's Saloon, and we're going to do next summer coming up. We're going to be doing a Beatles brunch, I believe every other Sunday, at Pete's Saloon. Myself and a couple of guys, Joe Pacino and my buddy Anthony. We're going to do a 3-piece or a duet, and we're going to do a Beatles brunch. But I still got my Third Step band, my British Invasion music show. We're working on that. I'll be down.
You got places. I'll be down these places.
I'll be down in Florida for the winter again. I'm putting a little band together down there. So we're going to be playing the Beatles on the Beach show this year again, probably in February and beginning of March. And then I'll be back here in April, and then we're going to start working on the Third Step band up here. And it's going to be basically British Invasion.
Does Ray Tabano have any singles out? I remember you were pushing something before. What do you have? Singles?
No, I don't have anything right now. I haven't been really doing that right now.
Okay.
I'm just I got some stuff that I've been piddling around with.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about reissuing some stuff that I played. I found somebody gave me a recording from the '90s when it was a 3-piece Crazy Raymond and the Watchdog Band.
Okay.
And I got some recordings of some songs I wrote back in the '90s that I want to re-record because they're on reel to reel, and they bounced them down to a little disc. But I want to I have to sit down and do it.
Reel to reel.
Reel to reel.
Reel to reel.
That's how old they are. Yeah. Ooh. Reel to reel, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna do some of those, and I got a couple of new songs, and I want to do a couple of covers. You know,
Are you playing any like private events for people?
not really. No, not
Okay.
really, man. I'm getting ready. Listen, it's almost time for me to go down to Florida. I'm
Okay.
going down at the end of this month, and I got
Where do you go?
get the house ready. I go down to Boynton Beach.
Woo!
My mother's going to be 102 years old in November.
You told me. God bless
So
her.
we're setting up the party for her in October, and then and then I'm coming back here on November 2nd. We're getting ready to do the vets. We got some rehearsals set up. I got some stuff I got to take care of legally, and then we're going back down to Florida for the winter, and I'm going to start with the Beatles on the Beach thing down there.
Wow. All right. Anybody that wants to contact you, your website is still crazyraymondtabano.net.
CrazyRaymond.net. You can get it over there, or go on Facebook, my Facebook page. I have two of them. I have Ray Tabano and I have Raymond Tabano, and you can go on either one of those, and everything bounces down to my email. At Crazy Raymond at Gmail, Crazy Raymond Rocks at gmail.com.
Okay, awesome.
Everything bounces down to that, and then we can take it from there. All right, Leonard, my man.
Ray,
God
thank you
bless you.
so much for the interview, brother. I love you.
Keep
Send my
doing
love
it.
to
Keep doing what
Randy
you're doing.
and the entire family. That Italian, that skin, that culture, our heritage. Your mom being 101.
What we're
Wow.
gonna do is when we do the show at Peace, why don't you come down and MC the show?
You know what? Listen, I'll talk to you more about things. I'll give you a call.
Okay.
But I want to shout out also Gravesend series shirt, 1980s Brooklyn Mob series on Amazon Prime.
I've seen that.
I was involved in it. I'm so blessed to be a part of season 1, episodes 2 and 4. And my dear friend Willie DeMeo created it and wrote it. We're up to season 3 with a phenomenal cast and crew.
Get me a part. I make a great villain.
You're the best.
I'll make a good villain. Get me a part.
Listen to me. Anything you have, send me flyers. Thanks so much for all that you do.
All right,
For
God
the
bless
vets
you.
and everybody. You're a good man, brother. God
All right,
bless you.
6-2 and even over now. Love you, man. God bless you, Lenny.
Love you. I'll speak to you, brother, okay?
I'll talk to you soon.
All the best.
Peace
Ciao.
be with you.
Ciao.
How do we end this yet? There we go. I got